Offer me money. Offer me power. I don't care.
So you just don't care. You want to share what you have to say.
I'll say what I want to say, and if the consequence of that is losing money, so be it.
Okay.
Yeah.
At the Gigafactory in Austin, it's quite something to just sit and watch for quite some time.
Yeah, this is actually where I don't actually have an office here. I either walk the floor or I hold meetings in this room.
Okay.
This room allows me to see what's going on with production while I'm holding meetings.
Is there one particular production that you focus on when you're here?
Well, this is the end of line that we're seeing here. So if cars aren't moving, that means there's some blockage upstream, and then I can go and see what that blockage is. If vehicle end of line is not moving, that means there's something upstream that's wrong.
Saying, okay, we might consider doing some advertising. Why?
Well, I mean, I believe in listening to shareholders, and I actually was surprised by the level of enthusiasm for advertising, since we have not historically done that. But I think it's worth a try, and we'll see. We'll see how effective that advertising should be. Informative about a product. It should be ideally aesthetically pleasing. It should be, beautiful. It should have some artistic element to it, and it should be something that you don't regret watching after it's done. So I think sometimes advertising is perhaps not informative, or perhaps in some cases a bit misleading. And in fact, we've lost some advertisers on Twitter because community notes applies to advertising too. And so if somebody advertises something that isn't that's perhaps a bit inaccurate, then it gets community noted, and then they get mad and stop advertising. But we care enough about the truth that we're willing to give up advertising dollars on Twitter, even if in order to have the least inaccurate source of information.
And I want to.
The starting price of a Tesla is actually below the average selling price of a car in the United States. So Teslas are actually much more affordable than people realize. And so we should just make sure people at least know that.
Right.
And that Tesla is also the safest cars on the road in so many ways that people, actually a lot of people at Tesla don't even know. Sort of the cabin overheat protection, for example, or the fact that we continuously update the automatic emergency braking software and the way the airbags deploy. So we look at an accident and we say, is there anything we could do from a software standpoint to improve the cars that are already on the road? And then what can we update in the design to improve safety? I think that the statistics speak for themselves. This is not simply a matter of opinion. It's statistically safer than anything else. I mean, it's simply, you can think of raising the Fed rate as somewhat of a brake pedal in the economy. Frankly, it makes a lot of things more expensive. Certainly things that are bought with credit, but then it has downstream effects on even things that aren't bought with credit. So, if the car payment or your home mortgage payment is absorbing more of your monthly budget, then you have less money to buy other things. So actually, it affects everything, even those things that aren't bought on credit. So the Federal Reserve was slow to raise interest rates, and now I think they are slow to. They're going to be slow to lower them. That appears to be the case. We have real-time information on demand. So so we know how many people placed an order for a Tesla yesterday, how many people placed an order in which countries for which cars. We're basically adjust pricing to match demand. The reality is that all car companies make significant adjustments to price. So you can actually see a very big difference over the course of, say, 6 months between the peak to trough of all cars. It's just that Tesla is so immediate and obvious and transparent. It's not a question of MSRP and then markups or discounts.
Right.
Tesla is the only car company selling cars where we believe the car is capable of achieving full autonomy with a software update. So the value of a fully autonomous car is, we think, perhaps 5 times more valuable than a non-autonomous car.
Why?
Well, the utility of a car, typically a passenger car, is going to be maybe 10 hours a week, maybe 12. Now, if you've got a car that's autonomous, that can go around and essentially be like an autonomous Uber, the utility, I think, is going to be, well, it's going to be much higher. Perhaps the utility then would be on the order of 50 hours a week. This is just a guess. Say there's 168 hours in a week, and probably, as a rough guess, an autonomous car will be able to be active instead of for 10 hours a week, probably in our view for about 50.
Right.
But it's the same car, and it costs the same to build. If the car is able to be used 5 times as much, Tesla is likely to make basically 2 or 3 times the original value or sale value of the car in robotaxi revenue.
Right.
This is gigantic. As I said, it'll be like selling cars for software margins, because in fact it is software.
Right.
Instead of effectively having, say, 25% margins, it might be 70% or more. I mean, the free cash flow associated with that is actually truly a staggering amount. The best analysis that I've seen thus far about this is from Kathy Wood's firm, ARK Invest.
We know Kathy well.
Yeah, she's great.
Yep. I would assume you like her, obviously. She's been a huge proponent of your stock for many years. Was right, by the way, very early on.
She was right.
Yeah.
I thought she was being optimistic, but she turned out to be, in fact, almost spot on.
Yeah. When?
I mean, it does look like it's going to happen this year.
Why?
Well, we're now at the point where the car can drive on highways and in cities with, and where a human intervention is extremely rare. You know, I guess I have somewhat of a pathological optimism.
Well, it works, by the way, because you don't end up with this unless you're optimistic. But
yeah, exactly. I mean, who would try to do this and rockets if they weren't pathologically optimistic?
No, you'd have to be.
Yeah, so there's a double-edged sword, I guess. Well, currently a limitation with is the production rate of our Shanghai factory. It's not demand. So we're making as many cars as we can. It's not a demand issue.
And you're going to be making batteries soon as well.
Yes. For the Megapack, for mostly for non-US markets.
Yeah.
So I'd say, so my overall kind of vision for X or Twitter is to be a cybernetic collective mind for humanity. This is going to sound quite esoteric and sci-fi, but if you know, in pursuit of that objective, you want to have information move quickly, have that information be accurate, and you want to have error correction on that information. So you can think of community notes as like an error correction on information in the network. So the reason that I'm asking people to be verified on Twitter and that we're saying, okay, verification means you've got a phone number from a reputable carrier, which means that you've at least passed through whatever their security mechanisms are, that you have a credit card, so you now have passed through whatever security mechanisms the credit card company has, and that there's some small amount of money paid per month. That set of actions significantly increases the cost of fake accounts, and with the latest AI, it can bypass basically every test for are you a human. Right. So then how do you know that 1 million accounts were created? How do you know that those are people?
I don't know. How do you?
Exactly. You have to do account verification. Get 1 million phone numbers, 1 million credit card numbers, and pay $8 a month,
Right.
And have that all not be traceable and clustered, I would say it's impossible. Impossible. So the goal of the sort of Twitter verification is fundamentally to prevent AI manipulation of the system.
Got it.
A negative $3 billion cash flow and had $1 billion in the bank.
Yeah. No, that's not good.
No.
Anybody who knows anything about corporate finance knows that's bad.
No, I mean, I'd say like the analogy I was using was it's like being teleported into a plane that's in a nosedive, headed to the ground with the engines on fire and the controls don't work.
Right.
Yeah.
And you were the guy who chose
that's what it felt like.
You chose to get into the plane.
Well, I did try to exit the deal, and they wouldn't let me. They wouldn't let. My skills and interests are in technology. So, I'll continue to play a role advancing the software, and getting the features and product stuff, basically.
Right.
So, I mean, the general idea is Linda will operate the company, and I will build products.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, that's a good.
And that will take less of your time.
Yeah, and I have that situation at SpaceX. Gwynne Shotwell, who's
Right.
amazing,
Yep.
operates the company, and I work in the sort of advanced technology,
Right.
sort of designing the new rockets and that kind of thing, and that's everyone should play to their strengths, and that's mine. Time triage is a real thing for me.
Yeah.
In fact, I'd say that the only real currency is time. Time is the only true currency.
So where are you going to spend the currency now that you don't have to spend as much at Twitter?
Well, I'm going to be devoting a lot more time to Tesla,
Okay.
and especially on the AI development, and new product development. And then and I'll also be allocating some more time to getting Starship to orbit. In the case of SpaceX, what I was able to do there was to, as the Starlink constellation started working, I was able to move some of the best people from the Starlink program to the Starship program. I mean, we have really some of the world's best engineers at SpaceX and Tesla, really some incredible human beings.
How much sleep do you get, by the way?
About 6 hours.
You do? 6 hours typically?
Yes.
No, that's not bad. I thought it would be less.
I've tried less, but my productivity, even though I'm awake more hours, I get less done.
Okay.
And,
But you work,
and the brain pain level is bad
is.
if I get less than 6 hours.
but you work 7 days a week.
Yes.
Yeah.
I actually only, in terms of actually, you say like how many days in a year do I not put in some meaningful amount of work? It's probably about 2 or 3.
Right. 2 or 3 days.
A year.
Yeah. A year. Yeah.
Yes.
Why share it widely?
I mean, this is freedom of speech. I'm allowed to say what I want.
You absolutely are, but I'm trying to understand why you do, because you have to know it's got a. It puts you in the middle of the partisan divide in the country. Do your tweets hurt the company? Are there Tesla owners who say, I don't agree with his political position and I know it because he shares so much of it? Or are there advertisers on Twitter that Linda Yaccarino will come and say, you got to stop, man, or, I can't get these ads because of some of the things you tweet?
I'm reminded of the scene in The Princess Bride. Great movie.
Great movie.
Where he confronts the person who killed his father. And he says, offer me money. Offer me power. I don't care.
So you just don't care.
Well, the advent of artificial general intelligence is called a singularity because it is so hard to predict what will happen after that. I think it's very much a double-edged sword. I think there's a strong probability that it will make life much better, and that we'll have an age of abundance, and there's some chance that it goes wrong, and destroys humanity. Hopefully that chance is small, but it's not zero. Tesla AI is, like I said, it's like, I'm not even sure who's second, frankly.
Why is that?
Yeah, suddenly 3 million cars will be able to drive themselves with no one.
Right, it goes back to that, right.
Yeah, and then 5 million cars, and then 10 million cars. If the positions were reversed and you said, okay, Tesla's got to produce a large language model that has output equal to or greater than ChatGPT, or Microsoft OpenAI has to do self-driving, and we flip the tasks, Tesla would win.
You'd win?
Yes.
And you have the computing power and everything else you need to do it?
Absolutely. The reason I am the reason OpenAI exists.
How much money did you give them?
I'm not sure the exact number, but it's some number on the order of $50 million. Man, fate loves irony next level. More than helped. It wouldn't exist without me.
It wouldn't exist without you. So
I came up with a name.
Right.
The name OpenAI refers to open source. So the intent was, so what was the opposite? What's the opposite of Google? Would be an open source nonprofit, because Google is closed source for profit, and that profit motivation can be potentially dangerous.
Should you have gotten governance for that money? Should you have gotten some level of control, perhaps, in retrospect?
Yeah, I fully admit to being a huge idiot here. Anyway, so OpenAI was like meant to be open as an open source. It was created as a 501c3, so part of it is also, in the beginning, I thought, look, this is probably a hopeless endeavor. How could we possibly compete with? How could OpenAI possibly compete with Google DeepMind? I mean, this seemed like an ant against an elephant, which is not a contest. And I was also, I was instrumental in recruiting the key scientists and engineers, most notably Ilya Sutskever. Look, it does seem weird that something can be a non-profit open source and somehow transform itself into a for-profit closed source. I mean, this would be like let's say you funded an organization to save the Amazon rainforest, and instead they became a lumber company and chopped down the forest and sold it for money. And you'd be therefore like, well, wait a second, that's the exact opposite of what I gave the money for.
Yeah.
Is that legal? That doesn't seem legal. At any point, Microsoft could cut off OpenAI. Man,